Mr. Ross Davenport or Davenport.
Charlie, what time is it?
Man? What that? Yeah, you know what? I already had another co-host already set up. Okay, I had offered a job to Mr. Gavin McLeavy.
Oh, he's much better at talking than me, but he's got that dirty accent that I don't like.
No.
Well, we're here somehow.
Okay, good. Nice to see you, Ross.
I'm a little bright today. I don't know why my light is so bright. Hold on a second.
You're never that bright, to be honest. You're okay.
Yeah, the wife will agree with you with that. Hold on.
Okay.
That's a little better.
I always forget my hat, man.
You always forget your hat. Yes. Well, first of all, welcome to episode 26 of
hats today.
We have matching
hats. That's pretty cute.
Well, yours is blue, I think. Mine's navy, so they're not quite matching. But really? I like your jersey. I like your jersey. I don't have one of those.
Hey, you haven't got any swag, man?
Just a hat. Just a hat from our gracious sponsor, McFadden, of the undefeated Brevard Red Eyes. That's the only one I have.
I guess people like me more than you. Okay,
that's very possible.
And I actually got this one. I couldn't put it in last week because it didn't fit, and they were so gracious that they actually exchanged it for a larger one, which now is very comfortable. Really nice shirt.
No, they probably need like a 4XL for me. I know these RG jerseys and these Asian jerseys all run super small. I normally need like a 3 or 4XL, where I'm really only like an XL and a half. Anyway, we're a little late, but let's get things going here, Charlie, with episode 26 of Talking Florida Rugby Occasionally. My name's Ross Davenport, fatback referee assigner. The groin's starting to feel a little better, Charlie. I'm getting around a little better. Although I do want to blame Key Biscayne for making me run in the first 10 seconds, making me sprint in the first 10 seconds of that game on Saturday.
Because they didn't let you warm up.
My friend of the pod, Lucas Cavalieri, decided to throw an interception with the first pass of the game. That resulted in me going one direction and then turning around going in the other direction rather quickly because I didn't expect him to do such a thing. And then he left right after the game to fly to Argentina for spring break, so I didn't even get to give him grief about it. But on the left there is my esteemed producer, Charlie Velasquez, who does all the things that make this show possible. I just show up basically and talk. As you can see, I'm wearing this fine Lions jersey today because the Six Nations it's not quite over, Charlie, but it's almost over.
Yeah.
Now we can start talking about Lions. I've seen some nonsense memes without the England rose in the Lions after our performance on Saturday, but you can be guaranteed there'll certainly be a number of England players still on the plane to wait. Are we getting on a plane? I don't think maybe we're not. We should find out this week, perhaps. I think we're still playing. Yeah. I think we're playing in England.
I don't even know what's going to happen with that.
We'll find out. Anyway, we're here to talk Florida rugby. But first, we want to thank our gracious sponsors. You can see in the bottom corners of your screen, 401k FL. If you own a business or have a 401k, need a 401k, then you can talk to 401k FL at 401k Florida. Their business is to tackle your retirement plan needs and goals. Their team has the expertise in the field of retirement plans, both big and small. So if your retirement plan hasn't been reviewed in a while, consider a complimentary consultation, gratis, by 401k Florida. So you can visit 401kfl.com. to kick things off. And as always, a massive thanks to Mike for his support of this podcast and at rugbyfl.com. And we did get a very gracious donation this week again, Charlie. You can fill us in more on that.
Actually, yes. This was a very touching donation because it was it's like a sponsor-sized donation from Mike Scully.
Mike Scully, that's right. Rugby formerly, right?
Yeah,
but he supports a lot of Florida rugby projects in the past. Teams traveling out of state, etc. He's always supported rugby in this state. So thanks to Mike.
A long time rugger, and the thing with him was that he felt that he wanted to support what we and us have been doing for such a long time. So he said this is actually my contribution for the last 9 years. So, take it like that. And he was very gracious. I did invite him today to show up, but he declined this time around because, we were talking about a lot of stuff. As I said, a real rugby person. So some interesting views, but we'll probably have him soon. Thank you, Mike.
And yes, thank you, Mike, if you're out there watching.
he's a very loyal listener to the podcast.
And as always, you can, if you'd like to help the podcast out, no matter whether it's $1 or a couple of dollars, whatever you want to do to help out. Again, all of it goes back to the pod. We've got nice new microphones, which I think we got last week. Everybody seemed to say they sounded better. So that's good. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be putting any of it into plastic surgery, Charlie. So I will not be looking any better, at least for the rest of this season. Maybe if somebody donates a few $100, I could, lose this thing here. Or maybe I should just stop eating. That would probably be a good idea too.
So should I. So they don't need to be changing the shirts that they send me. And listen, Ross.
Yes, I'm listening.
You're always saying, talking about the equipment. It's actually the reason we need funding is for production to
that
get
too. Charlie puts a lot.
It's really
a lot of hours into this. Charlie puts a lot of hours into it, especially with the videos and putting them together for the show and getting all our guests together. So it's nice to be able to give Charlie a few bucks to cover his time, which is worth a lot of money. But if you'd like to help out, rugbyfl.com/GoFundMe, as you can see at the bottom there, Venmo at rugbyfl, or paypal.me/rugbyfl. Where's that no graphic, Charlie? Have we heard from Go All Day yet?
From Go All Day,
have we heard from Go All Day yet? I'm waiting. Oh, there it is. Okay, yeah. Teddy Chapman is becoming a running joke now. So those of you that know Teddy Chapman, I know there's some of you in the green room that know him. So get on him.
Yeah.
Caleb.
So
Tristan, get on that man to sponsor this podcast. Or at least give me a hat or two I can wear and promote as well, or a shirt.
Oh, enough of hats. Okay,
yeah.
Enough hats.
Yeah, we got enough hats. I'll take a mask. I don't even have a rugby mask, really. Anyway. What did we screw up from last week, Charlie? Some invitations, but that was about it. It was nothing too major. We just went long again. That's when we got to get to things here. We're going too long. Yeah, an hour and a half max here. So let's roll on. 3 quick things. It was a busy weekend of rugby. MLR started, and for those of you that don't know, we have a few Florida folk playing in the MLR. Cam Dolan, former Naples Hammerhead, started for NOLA. They tied DCO Glory. Which was on, I think it was the game of the week on Sunday. It was pushed back. It was supposed to be on Saturday, but some COVID issues pushed it back to Sunday. And myself and the commentators and MLR all thought that Cam Dolan had scored a try. The commentators thought it was him. MLR tweeted it was him, but it wasn't actually Cam Dolan. So he did not get on the scoreboard, but they did tie that game late against DC in that beautiful stadium, which we're going to get to in a little bit as well in our third quick thing. Bailey Wilson from Orlando, he started a flanker for Utah, where Alex Tucci from Western came off the bench in the second half, and there Utah's win over the Austin Gilgronis. As Charlie's got some highlights here of the Gilgronis in those horrendous orange uniforms.
Yeah, man.
Utah, it is not there. They do have a nice red and black color scheme. There's Tucci there. You can't miss him with that hair. Getting involved in the ruck on the far side. There's an even closer view of Tucci with obviously his knee that he tore his ACL and missed all of last season. Obviously, last season wasn't much of a season because of COVID. But good to see Utah. Utah might be the team to cheer for. They've got obviously 2 Florida players, and so that was a nice win there for Utah. Mitch Wilson, who's Bailey Wilson's brother, he started on the wing for the New England Free Jacks in the loss to the stacked LA Giltinis. Peter Malcolm, former Taravella Trojan, he's been involved in the U.S. Eagles setup over the last few years. He came off the bench, I think in the 25th minute. I was trying to find out why, but this new company, Charlie, that cost me a broadcasting job that's doing the games now, does not have a particularly good replay system. I was trying to forward through the game to get to the tries and yellow cards, but it wasn't happening. And then we did not see any sign of Malachi Esdale, who started on the wing, I think, every game last season for Houston, former Naples UCF. He was a late re-signing, though. He was involved in the USA Sevens program, so perhaps he's still doing some of that. But I'm sure we'll see Malachi as the season goes on. So, yeah, lots of Florida people in action. Also, a couple that didn't feature in the squad, which hopefully we'll get to. I know John Scotty for Rugby ATL did not feature. Hopefully we see him as the season goes on. Did you get to watch any MLR, Charlie?
I did a little bit, and I was pretty impressed with the stadiums for one. And I think the quality of the broadcast were I mean, they're fine. Let's not complain about everything now that we actually have a professional league that looks pretty solid. And, you know, and they're gonna get better. I sort of liked it, and it's free. It's free for everybody to see.
I will placate the Okapi people by mentioning that Tucci did also play for Okapi. He came back as an adult because we can't forget. We always can't forget that, Charlie. We can't leave out our
but he
Okapi
started
people.
in Western. No, I think
he did start in Western, then he came back to play for Okapi before he went to MLR.
Oh, yes.
So we will mention that.
I know.
And played for the men's. He might have been in their first season.
Let's move on.
We also had Cisco Lopez as an AR, I think, at the Atlanta game. I'm not sure if Lex Weiner. I'm not sure if Lex Weiner did a game. I didn't get to catch all the games.
I think he did not.
I'll have to ask his mom, Sherry. She's a big fan of the show as well. So that's enough of MLR. So that's great to see that get going. Quick college roundup. Morgan Freeman, of course, vice captain of the Lindenwood Women. Lindenwood Women are just kicking everybody's ass, Charlie. They went out to Washington, which is obviously a not short trip from Missouri, and played Central Washington, who are, I think, one of the top 5 teams as well in the women's rugby side of things, and they won 62-12. Morgan Freeman, who did come on the show back in the fall, she scored a try, so that was good to see. She did. On the men's side of things, Chase Shore-Haskin of multiple South Florida high school teams, he started at 8 for Life Men, as they actually beat Lindenwood 32-26 in Missouri. That was a nice win for them. David Rhymes of Jupiter and Jared Miller of Krewe also started in the front 8 for Life. So 3 of the 8 starting forwards for Life, Charlie, were from Florida.
Wow.
Which is pretty darn cool. 1 in the front row, 1 in the second row, 1 in the back row. And also for Life JV, Cameron Veloz from, I think, Krewe as well. He started for the JV team, scored a try, and also kicked sticks for the Running Eagles JV side. So a nice little college weekend for the Floridians. And number 3, the CRCs are back, Charlie. Are you excited?
To be honest, I'm so concentrated in our rugby that I don't really care too much about we have enough to be excited locally.
Well, we do. We haven't had any national stuff really, though, obviously for quite a while now. CRC is formerly run by Rugby. Oh man, I can't remember the name of the company. Anyway, they've been taken over by National Collegiate Rugby, and they're bringing them to New Orleans on Memorial Day weekend. So they're looking for 32 men's teams and 16 women's teams to compete in that on Memorial Day weekend in New Orleans at their beautiful Shrine on Gold Mine, the stadium that they played in yesterday, a former baseball stadium that's now been converted into a rugby stadium. So CRCs will be happening on Memorial Day weekend, so the end of May, in the Big Easy. So that's good to hear. No news about Sevens Nationals from USA Rugby. I doubt that's going to happen. This may be the only Sevens National Championship for anybody this year, but this is just for the collegiate kids, obviously. As always, Charlie, do we have a Miami MLR update? Speaking of Miami MLR, first week? No, we do not. We thought maybe there's a first week, maybe they'd throw something in there and kind of hide it behind the news of week 1, but we don't. So hopefully coming soon to you, maybe, possibly, hopefully, a Miami MLR update, but not today. All right, let's get to our stuff, Charlie. The FRU season is coming to a close. We've got 1 more week of the regular season to go. That will be this coming Saturday, March 27th. There is one game, I think, set for the 3rd of April, but I'm not sure how much of an impact that one's going to have on the standings. I think it's a D4 game that I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm too concerned about getting the playoffs sorted for referees. So let's bring in Kerri O'Malley, our FRU president. She's going to run. I know, and put her kids to bed. Hi, Kerri. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very well. I was worried we weren't going to get this thing started, but we started a little bit late. But we'll get into you quickly here.
I just wanted to say something. The rumor is that National Sevens might happen. So
that's good.
From a national perspective, they're talking about, but I think they're talking about trying to move things back, and then also make play a little bit more regional. So might happen.
So perhaps have regional tournaments first, and then maybe a limited championship somewhere for the winners, or 2 of those 2. Which we've always had a qualifying system, but it's been sort of very sporadic.
They're working on it.
That's good to hear. Well, Charlie, we got the playoffs coming up. Kerri, let's go over the season as a whole. How do you think this season has gone? Obviously, it was always going to be a very strange season. Different systems and certain teams, certain divisions playing every week, certain divisions playing every other week, certain teams not playing, and obviously the threat of COVID hanging over everything. But how would you say this season's gone?
I actually am happy with it. I know that I've definitely gotten some heat. I would say I do these again. We do these national calls where all the union presidents call in, and we are the odd duck. So
Yes.
so I'm like, we're out here and we're playing, and so that for me, I think means a lot that people were able to play, and to just throw out some data. Not that I have all the data, but from the clubs that have informed us that they had a COVID case, we've had 5 clubs. Within those 5 clubs, we haven't had another team member test positive or have any symptoms. So from that perspective, I would say people played. We didn't have a COVID outbreak. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
There were a few more forfeits than we would have liked, and we got some grief over the forfeit policy a little bit. But if we pushed people really hard on that, then they would have played when someone was sick, and we didn't want that to happen. So
yeah, I mean, hopefully we can go into the playoffs now, where games obviously mean a lot more. Hopefully we've seen the end of the COVID situation. We don't want to see anybody having to progress due to another team. We've obviously just seen it this week in the college basketball. So I assume this protocol is in place if a team does have. I assume it's just a forfeit, and that's the end of that.
Well,
if it does happen in the playoffs. Well,
part of the reason it's harder for D4. So the way that the D4 is working is that they're going to have several consecutive matches. But one of the reasons that we have some games on the 3rd, and then there's winds up being a break, is that if we, the only issue we would have is for the 17th, and then the 24th, the week after. So that's the only timeline. Otherwise, we've been trying to space out a week. And then for the men's D4, that schedule is a little bit crunched. But the teams in that division, I think, have been really flexible, and I think that it's very clear, in my opinion, who the top teams are, and we wrote out those top seeds. So if it came down to it, I could see us limiting the number of matches. Right now, there's going to be 8 teams that qualify.
Well, as Charlie showing, let's go over these. Let's go over these schedules here. Here's the D4 playoffs first. We've got Orlando, Okapi, Daytona, and Tallahassee. I think pretty much clearly the best 4 sides in the state, quite a bit above everybody else hosting. So that's good to see. I think any of those teams could win it, to be honest. I've seen some of those scores and
the matchups. The matchups on that one might not be entirely true.
Yeah, these are subject to change, obviously, guys. So this is just sort of the home teams. I know in some of these divisions, the home teams are pretty much set, but the opposition may well change.
Okapi, Daytona, and Tallahassee are definitely a lock for hosting. Orlando have, even though they're at the top, they still have one more game, and they're not entirely positive on what they're doing postseason. So we have let Daytona know that they will be acting as top seed for there. And then Orlando's supposed to play Lakeland this weekend, but that game might be in flux right now. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, I assume there's some teams that just finish the season and they know they're not going to win, and they may just say, "We're done." So we'll see. We'll see if that happens. I know we've got some issues with that as well in the high school side of things and U23. Charlie, let's pull up your next division. Whatever you got next, pull me something up here. Well, while we're doing that, Kerri, what's the news on the state championships? Do we have talks of venues for that yet, or a venue, I should say?
Yeah. So we were going to use a location in Orlando. And we're not, and I'll explain why. Okay. So when you got our board together and we talked about, because the event's usually been senior and youth, and it's been a really big event and multiple fields. And when it came down to it, we were really hesitant to kind of put that number of people all in the same location. And then the other thing, we like it, but I just don't know right now if it's the right decision. And then the other thing is that cost. So we were criticized amongst ourselves. What will people say if we spend this much money on a championship in a COVID year? So we actually have 2 venues. So we're going to split the teams between 2 venues.
On the same date?
on the same date. So we're going to put.
Let me ask you this, because I knew of that possibility. Isn't that a really sort of bad idea? Because
it's really cost efficient.
Charlie, tell us how you really feel.
This is what I think. And when you say cost efficient, that is fine. But I would have to know if it's worthwhile. If you're talking about, okay, instead of spending $2,000 or $10,000, we're going to spend $2,000. I don't know. But to be honest, having the event at the same time in 2 different locations, you're preventing a lot of people who want to be in both, or even they need to be in both. And now they have to be. What about separating them and do them 1 week and then the following week? Because, why not?
I mean, you can tell the youth union that. I mean, we set our dates. Even amongst us, we're going to have to be in 2 locations at the same time. It would be a lot easier for me if I didn't have to run one of them. So I will tell you that I'm going to be at one location and he's going to be at the other one. I think in terms of the I'll give you an example for like the under 23s and some of the teams that have under 23 players. We get close to winding up with like finals. And so when we start playing, and then I know like for several of, I don't know if it's as prevalent in the D2 teams, but I know for several of the D3 teams that have college players and grad students, that when we play a week later, that we get really jammed up. We also scheduled it. We didn't know if there was going to be a Souths or a regional when we created it. So, I mean, I know, no, there isn't now.
Okay. Well, I mean, we've had youth and seniors in different days in the past, Charlie.
Okay.
Same venue, but different weekends.
So is that something that could be a possibility?
I don't know. Maybe Kerri can tell us with the youth side of things. I know we really only. I mean, I know the young kids are playing. I just don't know below U19s. I know 16s. I think have 3 teams. One of which is barely hanging on by a thread. Below that, I really don't know who we have. I mean, how many teams we're going to have potentially compete with? It might just not be too many anyway.
Yeah, and one of the things it makes it difficult with us for potentially 1 venue versus 2 is that we wouldn't be able to have all the senior teams at the same location. There's going to be 5 matches, so playing that all on one pitch is just not doable. So we know it's not ideal, but then our other option is to have an event where we have, I'll say, like a lot of the limitations for places are 200 gatherings of 250 or less. And so if we're going like off of that, I think we're just going to get jammed up.
Yeah. I mean,
I'd rather have 2 events, of course, but not on the same day.
Yeah.
You're just being selfish, Charlie, because you can't be in 2 places at once.
But that's why not on the same day.
Well, maybe a Saturday, Sunday. I don't know. Well, listen, we'll let the union figure that out.
We can consider it. We still have another month, but I mean, I would just say cost-wise, we got a lot, and I'm trying to be as nice as possible. A lot of criticism on our expenditures and COVID and how we were spending money, and so we're trying to be like as judicious as possible. We're also trying to put that money towards other things.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Charlie. Let's move on. Again, Kerri's only here for a short amount of time, but we can revisit this next week, perhaps, if Kerri has an update. I will be
lobbying on this in the okay, for sure.
Lobby with the youth.
you have a lobby? Are you an actual lobbyist, Charlie? Anyway, Division 3 playoffs. Let's get through these real quick. D3, Jacksonville will play the Pellies on Easter Saturday, and then
no.
Well, we don't know that. It could be Pelicans.
Yeah.
Well, these are sort of Brevard and Palm Beach are definitely going to host semifinals.
Mm-hmm.
Charlie's lost me again.
Sorry.
Pellies, I think, play Sarasota this weekend, so there could be some some things changing, but definitely Brevard and Palm Beach appear to be the class of D3 this season, and will likely meet each other in the finals. So D3 is pretty simple, unless we really see an upset in those semifinals. We're looking to see Brevard and Palm Beach, who really aren't that far away from each other, face each other in the finals.
And I think last year it was looking that way. I mean, it looked like it's good for them, because I think last year it was going to end up like that anyway. And so it's kind of nice to see them get to redeem the competition from last year, even though we didn't get to finish it.
For sure. Yeah, definitely the class of the D3 for the last couple of years. Charlie, let's go to U23. We saw Palm Beach lose their first game of the season, but I think they're still going to retain that top seed over Orlando. But either way, those two are going to be the hosts of the semifinals on the 10th. There is going to be, I assume, I know Gainesville had some COVID issues recently. Kerri, do you have an update on if that game is going to take place on the 3rd?
Yeah.
They're rivals. We'll see. I guess it's still almost 2 weeks out.
No. So the way this is going to work out is that it's going to be Okapi are going to wind up being the 4th seed, and Tallahassee will be the 3rd seed, because of the Gainesville-Tallahassee match is unable to be played this upcoming weekend.
Okay.
So they were. So I can talk about that in a second. But so now it'll be Okapi host Gainesville, and Tallahassee will move into 3 because that match won't be played. And this is all like the information hunting that we've had to do to try to sort it out. It's hard because I will say that next year we might be a little bit, I don't want to say meaner, but like there's a reschedule weekend, people, and then we tell you have to reschedule in the reschedule weekend, and they're like, we've got a thing. We're like, it's the weekend. So anyway, so there were some conflicts, and so now it'll go to win percent because of the uneven game numbers.
Right.
And it'll work out for Tallahassee, and then that'll be a harder trip for Gainesville because now they'll have to go to Okapi instead of going to Tallahassee. Okay.
I think we got that settled. But Palm Beach, clearly, until their loss this past weekend, hadn't lost a game in 2 years. So Palm Beach likely the favorites in the U23, but we'll see perhaps who they have to go through in the semifinal.
They're a bunch of like big, fit guys with a solid coach. I think that they're doing well there.
Very well. Charlie, let's go to women. Women's pretty simple.
That's not over yet.
Well, it's a lot simpler than everything else. Charlie, you put it up for a second there, and then you took it away.
I actually don't have the women's.
You just had it. You just showed it anyway. There's only 5 teams. The 5th seed's not getting in, which will be decided. There we go. So Orlando and Tampa, they're going to be the 1 and 2 seeds in some order. They play each other this weekend. But we're going to have a central location for both semifinals on the same day.
Yes.
So Orlando and Tampa will not play each other in those semifinals. They will be the top 2 seeds, and they will face either one of those bottom 3 teams. Now, Jacksonville are already in as the 3 seed. So whoever loses that Orlando-Tampa game will play Jacksonville, and then whoever wins Fort Miami Indian River will be the 4 seed, and will play the winner of Orlando-Tampa this weekend. So that's pretty simple. Semifinals will be on the 10th, and then the championship game on the 24th, which with Orlando and Tampa heavy favorites to make that championship game. We'll see how they fare this weekend. All right, what we got next, Charlie? Let's run through these.
Well, I think we just have this one.
U19 boys, this is a complete mess. But although we do know which 4 teams are going to host in the quarterfinals, I think, because they're pretty much ahead of everybody else. Naples hasn't lost yet. They play Wellington this coming weekend. If they win, I think they're pretty much secure in the one. But anyway, the top 4 seeds, Naples, Okapi, Jackson, Boca, I think are pretty solidly set as hosting quarterfinals. The opponents listed on the right-hand side are in complete disarray, and they could change depending on what happens this week on Saturday. So we will have, I'm not sure the update on Sarasota. They were looking a little sketchy for a while, but they appear to be hosting Boca this weekend. So they could have an impact on something. Whether they decide to put a team in for the playoffs is another thing. And there's the overall standings. As you can see, we got Okapi with 20 points in second. I'm not sure what happened there, Charlie, but I think they all have 16 points. Anyway, those top 4 teams are. If Wellington, I think this is your predicted standings. I think, Charlie.
I just got these from Evan. I think, if I'm not wrong. And full disclosure, I was doing these things just like 15 minutes ago. Okay.
Right. So if Wellington upsets Naples and Boca lose to Sarasota, then Wellington could jump into that 4th spot. I think that's the only change that could happen regarding playoff hosting. I think.
This might have gotten wonky on that win percent thing. So that could have been.
Oh yes, I see that on the right. Yeah.
Yeah, the winning percentage thing is commanding.
But very competitive, Charlie. I think there's probably 6 teams. Any of those top six teams could win this thing.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. I've refed some of them and I've seen video, and they're very competitive U19 division this season. What else we got left, Charlie? D2?
Didn't we see that one already?
No.
No, we didn't. Oh, man. Sorry.
That's all right. We got talking about D4, and then you went there first.
Okay.
D2 is pretty much set.
Oh, here
I think this one is.
Yes. So they played each other together in the regular season, but they're going to split off for the playoffs. So Palm Beach, which won the Battle of Palm Beach County, we'll get to that in a little bit. I think they can claim they're the #1 team in Palm Beach County now after beating Boca handily on Saturday. But Palm Beach and Brevard, the 2 clear class teams of D3. Somebody will really have to upset one of those two to knock out either of those two and not have them meet in the final. D2 will have sort of quarterfinals next Saturday on the 3rd, with Boca traveling to Tampa and Miami traveling to Orlando. The winner of those 2 teams will play Miami Tridents and Naples. So Naples and Tridents get a bye as the top 2 seeds in D2. And then in D3, do you have the D3 playoffs, Charlie? I know Jacksonville, Gainesville are done for the season.
I put you. Hey, Kerri, do you want to predict who's going to play the final?
For what?
Pressure here, Charlie.
For D3.
For D3?
D3 is easy, Charlie. Ask her about D2 because if Boca beat Tampa, they will have to play Tridents in the semifinal.
Okay.
So
I have not seen the clubs play, so I cannot comment. And it's weird the way I'm glad we did the regional thing. That's what everybody wanted, but it's hard to know without any of the games having been played really crossed over. You could be the best in yours, but like the worst when we cross over. We've seen that before when we had the regional D3. Like the one region was way better.
Yeah. Charlie, before we let Kerri go, do you want to post that Okapi question, or do you want to leave that for another day?
Oh, this is interesting. I mean, definitely it's interesting to talk about.
This is an issue that we have in soccer here as well. This is America. People love playoffs in America. This is never going to happen, Okapi. There will always be playoffs. So just give it.
What is this for? They want.
He's just saying that they want whoever wins at the top of the table at the end of the season is the champion. No playoffs, just a celebration for the.
No.
I'm not totally against that. I'm not
everybody
totally
has to play
against
everybody.
that for some. I was going to say for some competitions, because a lot of times we don't. At least in my opinion. I know that we do the playoffs. They're very good when we have the different regions. When we've done the playoffs before, when everybody played everybody and the top 4 made it, I want to say in like 7 years, we studied like the D3. In 7 years, we only had one upset, and it was Sarasota went on to win the whole thing. That was when Di was coaching. But that was the only time where the playoffs were.
As Andrea states, the women were going to do that in the regular season before COVID hit. So. Yeah. Women have talked about it, and again, if the men decide, if the high schools decide they want to do just a regular season champion as the champion, they can certainly come together and decide to do that. But I think a lot of these teams, especially when the short season, Andrew's not in the kitchen; she's in the bedroom actually. She got her second shot today, so she's a little, she's feeling it a little bit. But I think if the teams want to do something and they can come together, then. Well, so that will increase the amount of games per season. Well, that's another discussion for another day. Charlie is very vehement that we should be extending the season.
And I also I'm not in charge of the youth schedule. I get not from you guys, but from I'll just say this publicly. I'm not in charge of the youth union.
Well, maybe next season you are. Once you get out of the.
Charlie, don't give her any ideas. Her husband's probably watching.
My dog just barked at me. My dog heard you.
Just 2 quick final questions. Personally, don't you think we should be playing like the double amount of games that we are?
Not this season. No.
I know this season is. But
honestly, I don't. I honestly don't. I mean, compared to this season, I think we should play more. Do I think compared to the way we normally do it with a 10? I think teams going in and the number of matches that they've had. I think that USA Rugby, the competitions committee a few years ago did a study in terms of the number of games and what they thought was optimal for the teams that move on. So the issue that I think we see is that for the teams within the competition, it is fine to have that certain number of games, but for the teams that move on, by the time they've now gone to like a 2 matches at Souths and then potentially another travel weekend for regionals, regional playoffs, and then potentially national playoffs, and then they're probably trying to get a warm-up match in there. So the teams, like you could ask Chris from Palm Beach. I mean, I know he's not on here and I'm speaking for him, but as a team that's moved on, if the length of the season was more games, it would be really hard for our teams that advance.
Well, there are many more teams that don't move on, so maybe
they could play in the fall.
Less
I don't see these teams. No, let me finish in terms of the number of games. So the teams, they could play plenty of games in the fall. We've set up fall competitions for them, and they say they want more games. And then when it comes to the fall, even when we had a fall cup, they don't finish playing, and so it winds up to take our top teams and have them run ragged against Pennsylvania teams and California teams that have only had to play 4 matches before going out there. Those guys are healthy and primed, and our guys are ragged. And so I think if our teams move on, we want to give them the best advantage. And I don't really see teams scheduling extra games, friendlies, traveling to tournaments. And so they'll say they want more games, but they want more games that are in their backyard that they could schedule.
Yeah, 100%. In the end, if that's what they want to do, they'll come together at the AGM and decide a schedule that they want to come together and do. But you got to have everybody on board, or at least the majority, I should say.
And they need the bodies for it. That's the
problem. Most of our teams here, don't have that big a squad to get through those games.
So, last quick question, Kerri. I know you're going to be. This is your last year as president. Can you just tell us who are you grooming to replace you?
The current board. I'm working with the current board in terms of trying to find a replacement. Although, if there is someone out there,
Charlie, put your hand up.
Ideally, I was going to say, ideally, someone has to understand all the other things we deal with. So it's good for someone kind of coming from within, but I'm not saying that it has to be. I don't know if anyone on the board right now is dying to do it, but I think, we have several people that are qualified to do it.
I know you are like.
Send me out for new president.
Okay, thank you very much, Kerri. You've been
Thanks,
very
Kerri.
kind. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate your time as always.
Everything
you do.
Get those kids in bed.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all you do too. Take care.
Of course.
Bye. Okay, that
all
was
right.
good.
Johnny Lindsay asked me for a prediction of who's going to win D2. Where's the sideline whisper when we need her, Charlie?
How do you know it's a her?
I don't. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
A D2 prediction. I haven't seen Naples. I haven't seen a lot of the northern teams play, so it would be hard. I think Trident's perhaps the favorites if they have. It's also a question of if everybody has everybody. If somebody gets COVID and they lose a couple of players, it could really devastate a team. But
I'm gonna say Naples against Trident is the final.
I would say that's a good bet, and I think that would be a very good game because again I haven't seen Naples play this season, so just because of the regional play. Andrew says Trident versus Tampa.
Oh, look, we got a candidate here. Okay,
Stephen. We've asked Stephen to come on before, but he's worried. So if he's worried about what he's going to say on the podcast, I don't know how he's going to be president. He's too worried about offending people. Stephen, if you want to come on, jump on tonight. Anyway, all right.
Let's move on.
7:45 already. Let's go. Palm Beach game of the week, number 1 for the seniors. Palm Beach Boca. I know we've had both these teams on a lot, but 2 of the best teams, not just in South Florida, but in the state. And there was a lot riding on this game. Obviously, a win. And if Boca had won and Trident had lost to Miami, they would have jumped up into the second seed spot and got a bye. But there was little chance of that happening in the 305 derby, unfortunately. But let's bring in our guests from. I love this. I love that music. It's like a Jaws thing, which is good because we don't have Naples on yet. We do have Tristan Gray with a fresh new haircut, freshly shorn from Boca, as well as Caleb McDonald in his island shirt, of course. Was there a game this past weekend, Caleb? I don't remember.
It was a great game. You want to see it? We smashed the English.
I will not be seeing that, just like I won't be watching the World Cup final anytime soon. And joining us from Palm Beach, Drew Stubbs, captain of the Panthers, as well as Austin Parish, who was rightly talking smack before the game. We'll let him talk some more smack in a little bit. But let's get to the highlights first, Charlie.
Okay, I was just rearranging them so they
rearrange them. Yes, move them around. That's the one power you have. You have the power.
And listen, I was at the game because I was taping it, and I know there was a lot of blah 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 blah, and I just don't want this to happen. We don't want to do that, okay?
Tom with his shirt tucked in and his socks up, Charlie. First time ever. Let's note that down. I want to give a thanks to Tom Champa because he did step up. He's a Palm Beach sort of alumni / player / referee, and he agreed to referee this game because we lost a ref at the last minute this past week. So big thanks to Tom Champa for stepping up and refereeing that game in sort of uncomfortable circumstances, although nothing ended up being riding on that game because of the Trident's win over Miami, but he still didn't have to do it. And as Andrew says, a lice outbreak. Anyway, let's get to the highlights. Obviously, Boca in the red and Palm Beach in the pink at Dyer Park here. And Tom in the blue. And we've got a couple of penalties to start things off. Here's the first penalty in. Or was it a try first or a penalty first? No, it was a penalty first. I was right. How do you say this guy's name, Drew? Tristan? Did we have him on the podcast? We did, didn't we?
I don't remember, to be honest.
I don't think you had Dendre on yet. No, Oos has talked about him.
Yeah, we did talk about him in that first episode. South African with a boot and a half. He kicks some points there, and he'll also score a try in a little minute here. Gives Palm Beach the early 3-0 lead, but then Boca come right back and tie things up here. Not sure what the penalty decision. Oh, coming in from the side, looks like Tom Gray. And then who's kicking here, Tristan?
That's Dave Whelan.
It's Dave Whelan, not you. Is he surpassed you as the team's kicker? There's a lovely little try here. Fabian Lumsden with the rubber kick through. Not sure where the Boca fullback was.
That was Tristan.
Really...
He's right there.
Yeah, where were you, Tristan, on that play? I'm not even going to ask this.
I had to press up on the defense. They did well with that, though.
Nice little tricky grubber kick from number 10, Fabian Lumsden here. I think this is the next try. Now, Charlie, I want to point something out here on this try. I'm going to pause it in a second here. I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. The Boca 9. I'm going to pause it right here. He comes out the left side of the screen, and they're very close to the posts here, so I'm going to assume he could have got back 10, but watch the tackle from the Boca 9. Oh, no, thank you. I don't want a piece of that. Just a little Olay. I'm going to go back and play that again, Charlie. Watch it right here on the... Oh, no, thanks. He doesn't want a piece of Vashawn Bo Jackson, with his first try of the game. And then Dondre Stratton with the conversion. And that's the end of the first half. Bring us to the second half here. As Tom's making everybody wait to tie his boots. He had 15 minutes to tie his boots, and he made them wait at the start of the second half to do it.
He has to do something every time.
He's got to put on a show. That as a ref, you've got to put on a show. He's Stratton with another penalty.
He's short here.
Oh, he's short this time. That's right. We have the try coming up in a second. I'll say he was into the gusty wind that is always blowing at Dyer.
Oh, yeah. Comes
a try off the top. Nice little maul. Bo Jackson at the back, and that's about as easy as it gets.
That was a very neat maul.
And he rumbles over in Exeter Chiefs style to close the scoring, I think. Right, Charlie? Was that the last play? Was that the last try?
Yes.
I think it was. Palm Beach with a 24-10 win. Let's get to Stubbs first. Stubbs, tell us about this team. How good is this team? You've played with this team a number of years. How good is this Palm Beach team you've got right now?
So it's a little weird because I've been with Palm Beach this has got to be my 7th year captaining the side, something like that. We have now a real mix of youth with a lot of our older guys. We've kind of gone through that transition. Our whole back line has changed out with Fabian, Austin, Dendre, Luca Beaumont, and Devarius Miller, Beanie, all in there. It's been a lot of youth invigorated in that back line. Yeah. And their defense in that game was outstanding. And Austin and Fabian led the charge there. They really put the stick on pretty much anybody who was carrying the ball, whether they had an 8 on their back or a 13. they were all over the place. So that was massive in that game. And then the same thing's true of our pack. We've kind of invigorated some youth. So in my old age, I've been able to slide in, move into lock, and provide some more leadership without having to run all over the park because I can't exactly get around like I used to.
There's Luke commenting that it's locked down, just like it is in real life as well on there. Do you talk about these kids that you obviously went to Riviera Beach, played high school rugby here, went away to play college, and then have come back to really help you guys out?
Yeah, so that's actually how I met Oost. I coached the Jupiter Sharks with him. That was my first experience with Oost, and a lot of these players that were playing in high school at that time, they all left. So some of them went to LSUA, and then eventually they went to New Mexico, and they came back from Vatos, and they've kind of rejoined our team. They've invigorated definitely some of that pace that we want to see. Not all of them have come back, but a couple of them have come back. They are still very talented, but very rough around the edges with certain things. Don't always take criticism very well. So that's something that we're working on. Me and Us are really working on to really get them sharpened. Austin is from you played at Arc State, right, Austin? Is that correct? Yeah. So another quality program, another quality player to bring into any side, and it's been a lot.
Well, let's bring in Austin here. He's got some stuff to say. Charlie, bring that man in. There he is. With the backwards set. What has he got on the wall there? Some starting lineups up on the wall there? Austin, what you got behind you? All sorts of memorabilia. Look at this guy.
He's on mute.
We lost him again. He's unmuted now. Austin, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
And we can hear you. Tell us a bit about yourself, Austin. Where did you start playing? And I know about Stubbs already. Everybody knows about Stubbsy. So let's hear about you a little bit.
Well, I started playing football when I was younger. My dad was a coach, and he put me in every sport there was, but rugby. But my senior year, my buddy Brock Roper, I'm not sure if you know who that is.
Oh, we do.
He's been playing rugby for a long time here in Florida. And he sent me a message after football season. He was like, do you want to come out and play some rugby? And I was like, sure. I've never heard of it. I went out there for about 2 weeks. And after that, I fell in love with it. And I played a full season with him. And
that was with Cape Pirates?
Yeah, that was with Cape Pirates. And it was under his dad, too. His dad was the coach.
Yep.
So I played the full season, and he had a scholarship to Arkansas State. So I ended up going with him. He talked to the coach for me. I called the coach. The coach watched a little bit of film. But at the time, I didn't know how to pass the ball at all. I was much.
Oh, so now you're back here playing for Palm Beach. How did that happen? You just moved back here after college?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear us?
I don't know. Something happened with the video.
Oh, well, Charlie, we'll bring Austin back in a second. Let's get to the Boca side of things. We'll get to Austin in a second. Austin, let us know when you can hear us, because we can hear you. Tristan,
How's it?
let's talk about this game first. You had a good view of it from the fullback position. Where did this game go wrong for you guys?
No, they exploited us on the. I think we committed too many people in the ruck. Our forwards were committing too much into the ruck when they already had it sealed and everything, and we committed way too many. So they exploited us on the outside of it. So their second phase ball kind of got us, and I have to say they did a fantastic job with it. So as there's the one try, I had to pull into the line, and I was hoping my weak side wing would cover, but they did well with exploiting those areas from us. So I would say that was probably one of the weaknesses with us.
Yeah, so you guys got to travel to Tampa on April 3rd. Where does this team need to get better, you think, to perhaps compete for this title? You guys have been competing for the D2 title obviously this year's a little different with everything that's going on, but where does this team need to get a little better, you think, to perhaps get to the final again? You obviously have to go through Tridents as well.
Yeah, we're just gotta get back into our groove again. It's just a speed bump in the road right now. So we're missing a couple players, but I think we're just gonna get back in the groove, play Tampa as we normally do, and then just look on to the next after them and look on to Tridents. So
let's bring Caleb in, another player from Boca joining us this evening from the pack side of things. Let's get a view from the pack. Caleb, first of all, talk about the game that I didn't see it happen. I saw there was a score on Saturday. Ireland finishing off their Six Nations with a win over another team that I've disowned.
Yeah, don't be heartbroken. But yeah, no. This weekend, it's again kind of like what Tristan was saying there. We were just with the whole packs. We were just everyone was watching the ruck. We were committing too many people to the ruck. We weren't doing our pods, right. I was to blame for a few, and some like we're just kind of like all over the place, and it kind of affected us. But once like in the second half, we got more structure and stuck to the pods, and changed, and then we got a try or two out of it. I think it was. Once we start podding up and being more structured, but yeah, Palm Beach did a great job this week. Got their revenge back on us.
Brock Roper commenting there about his boy Austin Parish. You also played your college rugby there, right, too, Gil?
Yeah, when I finished college in Ireland, I got a scholarship to go to Arkansas State as well, and I only did 6 months though out there. I was like, get me out of here.
A different world.
It was a shock to the system. Yeah, going from one country to the back arse of nowhere. So, yeah.
But you've been around this team for a while. Is this a team you think can win the title, even with this sort of up and down start to the season here? I know it's been a short season. You guys have had some forfeits. You haven't got to play Lauderdale or Miami, so you played, I think, less games than most teams have. But you might be a little healthier as a result of that. Yeah,
no, definitely, 100%. I think we can win it. We just gotta get our heads right. Like we've no reason to not be fit. Ale runs us a lot. So once we get focused, like what's happened this game and last week against Miami, we only switched on in the second half. If we played the way we did in the second half last week in any of the games, we'd fair to say we're 100% going to win. Like we would have smashed them. Last week we were struggling with scrums. This week we didn't struggle as much with the scrums. We got it. We figured it out. But like if we go in there balls to the wall at the start, like I don't think anyone can beat us. But we do. We've been getting caught out and just kind of waking up in the second half, and then it's just an uphill battle for us. So I think more get the head in the game, and I think definitely we can come back and pull it off.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. You obviously got to go over to Tampa now and play them on Easter Saturday, which won't be easy. Let's bring Austin back in. Austin, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now.
All right, Austin, tell me about this team. Stubbs gave us his view of this team. What makes you excited about this team and the potential of another state championship?
I would say we have a lot of new players that are playing together, so the chemistry took a while to get, because you don't just go out there and just know how your buddy's going to run a line. So I think over a couple of games now, and we lost to Boca, that really got to our heads. Everyone started showing up to practice, started working harder. I think that has really pushed us over the line, where now I think we're definitely a state championship team. And I don't see the Red Eyes beating us. I know that they're undefeated over there, but I used to play with them last year.
Oh, okay.
And we were undefeated last year too, and we were supposed to play West Palm. And then I ended up moving over here in this area. So I joined West Palm, and now I'm gonna have to play against all my friends in Brevard. So it's a big game for me that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, as you can see in the comments, I think this is probably the biggest game of the season that everybody's looking forward to, whether they're involved with Palm Beach or Brevard or not. Let's bring Stubbsy back in one more time. Stubbs, obviously, you went almost all the way a couple of years ago with Palm Beach. Obviously, this year, no South, so nothing past states. But have you guys? I know it's hard to look past the semifinal, but have you guys started looking at Brevard yet and what they bring to the table?
I haven't watched any game film from anybody in the North, to be honest, really, because I knew we weren't going to face anyone from the North until we got into the playoffs. I think now that we kind of know where we're seated, I've played against Brevard multiple times. It's always been a quality hard match, regardless of the scoreline. I think every time we go against them, and they have been steadily increasing year on year on year on year. So I am very anxious to see what they look like this year. I'm very excited to see what that match is going to look like. I know all my players. I know what they're capable of. I know where their optimum is, and I know it's better than anybody else in Florida. So I'm not really worried about that. It's about what we could do. Even in that Boca game, And on this past weekend, we had a lot of discipline issues. I put out to the team like, hey, that's on me because I'm your captain. I got to lead. We had 3 yellows in that game. We got it. Quality side. You just can't have that. You just can't have that ill discipline. And Champa was on me about, hey, I can't wait to hand out your yellow. So luckily I didn't get one, although a Boca's scrum half definitely tried to get me involved in one early on. We can't do that against Brevard or even against who we see in the semifinal because that's it. You're out. This Boca game was a great game. Love playing them. It's always a hard fought, as was the first game. But to end, we're not going to end on this high. We're going to move forward with that. We're going to ride that into our state run.
Yeah, I think we're all looking forward to the playoffs and the postseason, where, as you mentioned, discipline is going to be key, especially when you perhaps have a referee as well as 2 qualified ARs. So they're going to be keeping an eye on everything. Well, gentlemen, good luck the rest of the way. Boca, I know you got a week off before you play. Palm Beach, you got a couple of weeks off before they're back in action. But stay healthy out there. Yes, go ahead, Austin.
Good luck, Tristan. Good luck, Caleb.
Same to you guys. Take care.
Go ahead, Austin.
Hey, you got to put some respect on Palm Beach's name now.
Listen, as I said to somebody on Facebook earlier today, you guys forget who I played for more than I played for Palm Beach more than Boca in my very short post-college career.
Yeah, I'm just messing with you.
But no, listen, I like when both teams are succeeding, which they certainly are right now. And I look forward to hopefully seeing both of you guys in the championship game on April 24th. Well, thanks for joining us tonight, gentlemen. Appreciate your time. All right, Charlie. Boca Palm Beach, always a fun meeting, and I guess the Panthers get to consider themselves kings of Palm Beach County for the time being. We'll see. I don't know if I include Brevard in South Florida, but somebody said that they're the best team in the 3 counties, which I think Tridents might have something to say about that. I know when they played them earlier this year, they didn't have a full squad, but they did the second time. So I'd love to see if perhaps a winner of D2 play the winner of D3, perhaps in the first week of May. I don't know if we can get that together. Charlie, maybe we can call it the Rugby FL actual real state championship. And they'll give you the more games that you want. But anyway, thanks to all the guys from Boca Palm Beach. Let's get to our game of the week, number 2, which is always in the high school division if we can. Ross loves Boat. I mean, Carlos, I'd love if you would ref. That's what I would love, if you'd actually be available on a Saturday to referee. Anyway, Okapi versus Tampa U19s. Tampa U19s, we're in the mix for a home game if they perhaps have won this game. They came down and played Okapi, who they're starting to get things together, Charlie.
Let's bring all these people in, okay?
Bring them in all at once. Let's do it. We have Dave McFadden, head coach of Tampa. We have Gavin McLeavy, who's looking as pixelated as I've ever seen him. It's the handsomest I've ever seen him look. We can't see his features.
Good. So we can kick him out. Okay.
He's on that ASM. He's on that ASM internet. And we also have Trevor Thacker from Okapi as well. Do we have a player from Tampa joining us?
Yeah, he just dropped off, but he will be back.
I can't hear Dave.
You're muted, Dave. Oh,
unmute yourself, David. Can we
okay,
hear him now?
There we are. Gareth was going to be on he's one of our backs coaches. He was going to be on, but I think he passed away from starvation. Waiting.
You got to eat before you come on. I slammed the Taco Bell before I got on here.
That's why you were late, Ross. That's okay.
Listen, I was not late. I was messaging you at 20 to 7 asking for that code. But that's neither here or there. Let's get to the highlights first, Charlie. And there's quite a few of them.
Okay, I got them ready here.
Let's get to these first. Refereed. Who refereed this one, Charlie? I can't see in the blue.
This is Mark.
This is Mark Martinovich.
Yeah, these are a little bit long, so if you want to just,
Yeah, we'll talk as we go here. Obviously, Okapi in the black and Tampa in the white. You're just forwarding through, Charlie. There's some great tries here from both sides. Okapi put up a few more points than Tampa did. Let's talk to Dave first. Dave, we got you down here. Talk a little bit about
full credit to Okapi. They play a very organized game of rugby, and they got some real talent. And they beat us 55-14, so that's a big statement. And so I full we had our struggles on defense. We like to gang up around the rucks too much, and we're going to be working on that this week a little bit more. We got a late start this year. We didn't have our first practice till January 2nd, and that hurt us because we only had like 8 or 10 returning players, and so most of our guys are first-year players, and getting a late start didn't really work out too good for us. But I mean, I've got some bright stars, or bright lights in this group. There's some guys here who, if we can get a U23 league going where they can go from U19 and not have to play against 300-pound guys, several of these fellas will probably continue to play rugby if they don't go to college and play there. The fellow that just kicked for us there, he's just relocated from Ireland. He's played 6 years in Ireland in the Cork area, and he's a great kid. We've got a whole bunch of kids on the team that are just, the right kinds of guys to keep going and to keep teaching. It's just been a kind of a squirrely year for us this year, and we only traveled with 16 this weekend, so that made it even harder.
Yeah, you come down to South Florida twice, which is obviously a long trip for you guys. You started the season with a relatively close loss to Jackson and picked up a win against Tampa, but you lost heavily to some of the top teams in this league. What does this Tampa team need to do to perhaps shock somebody in the quarterfinals?
We have to recruit 25 new players.
Good luck with that.
No, actually, like I say, there's a good group of guys here that we can build around. We do need more depth, though. We don't have enough guys, but we had the privilege of playing all 4 of the top teams, and man, I'll tell you what, I don't know who between Naples, Boca, Jacksonville, and Okapi, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, but there's 4 real good teams right there, very well coached teams, a lot of talent. The 10 from Okapi, I was very impressed with him. He's got a heck of a foot. But, I mean, these guys just played very good, very well-organized rugby. They shared the ball well. They played good defense. Full credit to those guys. They played very well.
Yeah, obviously some of these Okapi kids with the youth program in place there have been playing for a number of years. Is there any sort of movement on Tampa's side of thing about getting some of the younger kids started, the 10s and 12s and 14s?
Yeah, so Joe Hillbush, a longtime Krewe men's team player, is coaching some younger guys now. We're kind of getting it going. I mean, we've got a long ways to go to catch up with some of the teams in South Florida, but that's our goal. And we really, it's one of the things I wanted to talk about with you guys is that we really could use some marketing help to get the word out. I don't know how to communicate with middle school or high school kids anymore. It used to be you put something on Facebook and you could get the kids interested, and certainly they don't use Facebook anymore. And I'm 60 and I don't know anything about the stuff that they do use, so we could use some help with that kind of thing just to get more attention and more guys out. I found that if you can get a guy to coach and put in the commitment to coach, and as everybody knows, it's a big commitment, but if you can get a guy to take on that commitment and you can find a pitch to practice on that has lights, the kids will come if you can get the word out, and they'll have fun and they'll enjoy it. And then we'll keep some guys playing rugby for a long time.
Good stuff. Yeah, keep working on that. Once the younger kids, as you've seen how it's helped, Okapi and Key Biscayne and like I said, then once you get those kids on the U19s team that have been playing for 8 to 10 years, it makes a big difference. Let's bring in Gavin McLeavy, the head coach of Okapi U19. Now, Gavin, you started the season with that loss to Jacksonville up there. Obviously, a long trip to begin the season, and people were wondering, what's going on with Okapi? And then you've rattled off, 5 straight wins? If you include that victory, 5 straight wins now. A couple of them are tight wins. This one wasn't so tight, but talk about where this team is at right now.
The lads have been doing well. I think that first game at Jacksonville, we just went up and not mentally ready for it. We just kind of showed up. Okay, we're going to play rugby again, and maybe the season will work, and maybe it won't.
Right.
All the COVID stuff. Since then, the guys really buckled down. I had to do a little bit of psychology with them because they're teenage boys at the end of the day. So you have to kind of, some of them are very comfortable and they felt like, I've got this position and it's mine, so I don't have to show up to training. And then so sort of manipulating that situation helps a little bit and make them realize that, that position isn't yours. and actually is that sort of psychology behind it has maybe made a few of them think they're going to need to try a little bit harder. So there's guys on the bench that I'm, being able to pull onto the game and show up. And because they pay attention, because they're learning in training, we don't spend a lot of time doing fitness stuff. Like I just don't do it. Like it's all, 90% of what we do is strategic. It's game plan. It's learning this structure, and then I pick the players based on their understanding of the game plan. And if they don't get it, like I just put them on the bench, or if they don't, I put them on the bench, and they know now, and that means that those guys that maybe played 2-3 games in a row, and then all of a sudden they find themselves on the bench, like, well, okay, I'm on the bench now. What do I need to do to get back on? So then, they play the last 20 minutes of a game against Tampa there. I had, 8 guys that normally would be playing first, like straight out the gate. And they were all sitting on the bench. And a few of them were like, oh, I should have stepped up at training this week, or I should have just
Gotcha.
it was, they're getting into spring breaks, or some of them maybe go on the beach for the day instead of, showing up for training. So I think that's helped a lot. And it's just massive competition for places. Put 7 guys, I think, in the squad of 23 from the under 16s team this year, because they didn't this week. So because they didn't have a game. And that there was a few guys that were injured and couldn't play. So then I needed to fill them in them spaces. But there was a few guys as well that maybe were getting a bit nervous. So when they went on in the second half, they really stepped up their game. And that helps a lot that Tampa came down with just 16. We were in control by halftime, but you're never really comfortable against a team like Tampa. So it was nice to be able to bring on a fresh set of guys that were, pretty much starters on any other given day.
Yeah, you're going to be able to sort of fill in those gaps, as you said, with the U16s for the rest of the season, because I think is their season done?
Well, they've won all the under 16s have won all their games at this point. I don't know what happens with playoffs with the under 16s. I honestly haven't been paying too much attention to it. But I've been working really closely with the under 16s coaches so that there's fluidity between the teams, because most of the teams, right, in Florida, the under 16s and the 19s is one team. Where with us, we've got 27 guys registered at the under 19, and then maybe another 28 or 29 at the under 16. So we've got 2 completely separate squads. But I'm working hard with the 16s coaches to mesh that together as much as possible, so that when they get the opportunity to move up, there's not a massive disconnect. So that's the important part for me, to have the rugby club running as a club. So from ideally the men's team down to the 19s, down to the 16s, and even the little guys, there's game structure that obviously progressive. We're not getting under 14s running complex stuff, but there's definitely a unity from when they step from one to the next. That's helping a lot with the club at the moment, I think.
I would love to see it. That's how club rugby should be run, and hopefully some of these other teams, looking to grow, pay attention, and come to you guys and ask for help in how you got to where you are. Let's bring in Trevor Thacker, one of your players from Okapi. Trevor, welcome to Talking Florida Rugby. Thank you for joining us this evening. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been the captain this year so far for our team. I've been playing for, I think, 6 years now for Okapi. And every year we've always done pretty well. And Gavin's a great coach, but he coaches the team. It's always... Yeah,
how did you get into rugby in the first place?
So when I moved here from Texas, I saw a sign in West Trace Park for Okapi, so I started looking into it and came to a couple of practices.
Nice. What sports had you played before that? I always like to ask these questions of the kids to see how they got into rugby.
Sport. Tried baseball, didn't like it, wasn't good at it. I tried basketball, didn't like it, wasn't good at it. But so the first that I tried and really liked and was good at was rugby.
What position do you play?
I played flanker past season for most of the time, except for this past game I played inside center.
The old flanker inside center. That seems to be a popular switch that a lot of players make. Talk about this team and this season that you guys have had so far. Again, got off to that sort of losing start against Jacks, but then you've gone on a nice winning run since then and winning some key close games as well.
Yeah, we've been playing really well since the first loss against Jacksonville. It was definitely an eye opener for a lot of us. Just realized what it was like, and I think what was really good was when we played Cardinal Gibbons it showed us that we could play against more physical and bigger teams like Gibbons, like Jacksonville, and like Tampa, which we just played, who have bigger guys than what some of it be used to playing against teams like Key Biscayne, who generally are smaller teams. So I think playing Gibbons and winning was definitely very good for us.
Good stuff. Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining us this evening. We're getting on towards an hour and 15 minutes here, so I got to move on. But appreciate you guys joining us. Good luck the rest of the way. I think any team in the top 5 or 6 could win this U19 championship. There's so much talent out there at the moment, and these teams are really just starting to gel now. After been playing for a month and a half or so. I've noticed, Gavin, that Okapi hasn't played Naples or Boca yet, 2 of the top 4 teams. So it'll be interesting if you get to play either of those 2 in the semifinals, and that you haven't played them yet this season. Obviously, there's video out there of everybody these days, but get your scouting done. And Dave, keep up the good work up there in Tampa, and hope to see you guys back in the mix again, maybe this season, hopefully.
Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
All right, Charlie. Let's talk about our sponsor real quick before we get on to our other scores. Yes. If you have a 401k or you want a 401k, or even if you run a 401k, the team at 401kfl has the experience to tackle your retirement needs and goals. Visit 401kfl.com to kick things off and support a fellow rugger, a fellow Florida rugger. So let's get to our other scores, Charlie, before we get to our open mic.
Okay.
If you want, as Charlie says at the bottom there, if you want to join the open mic, grab yourself a pair of headphones so we don't hear you echoing, and join it. Go to rugbyfl.com/join. I know we have a few guys on already with Randall Johnson, one of our referees, is coming on, as well as Chris Vassel, of course, as always. But let's get to our scores. We're not going to go through them all, but we'll go through some of the key ones from the past weekend.
Give me just 1 second, because
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay.
Except maybe to sleep. I just hit the wall, Charlie.
There you go.
All right. So that first one's a big one, right? Well, Palm Beach hadn't lost a game Palm Beach/FAU hadn't lost a game in 2 years. Obviously didn't get to finish the season last year, but Orlando knocked off Palm Beach in a very close game, 25-24. I know Palm Beach had a chance to win it at the end with a kick, but missed it. So Palm Beach are human. They do lose games, and those two will likely be the top 2 seeds in the U23s and could well meet again in the championship game on April 24th. Let's go down the list here real quick. Jacksonville women 43, Fort Miami 15. That really clinched a playoff spot for Jacksonville. It leaves Fort Miami having to beat Indian River this weekend if they want to get into the playoffs. Let's scroll down the list here. Orlando continued to play pretty well, knocked off Jacks 48-5. They will host Miami, as we mentioned earlier, in the first round of the D2 playoffs. Miami were on a bit of a thumping on the end of Miami Tridents. Brevard continued. That was a forfeit. Sorry, but Gainesville, their season is done, just due to numbers and obviously the earlier COVID situation. Okapi D4, Tallahassee D4 continuing to threaten for a D4 title. That D4 title is going to be fun too, Charlie. Daytona's playing real well. They lost to Orlando. But those are the top 4 teams, I would say, in that mix. And then the game that I reffed, Key Biscayne knocked off Gibbons 24-17. So I think that's it for what other highlights do we have, Charlie?
Well,
we got some highlights. But again, as always, guys, if you have video, please send your video in to rugbyfl.com/upload, Charlie, right?
Correct.
If you have videos or photos of your game, we can talk about them a little more. I don't like talking about games too long when I don't have video to watch. So please send your stuff in, and they will be featured on TFRO. I know there's some teams that we haven't featured yet, but that's because you guys haven't sent us any video. You should listen, Charlie, as you always advocate. Every team should be taping their game, whether it's for disciplinary purposes, but mostly for coaching purposes, right? You can go back and watch these games and see things that you didn't see when the game was live, and it's a benefit to everybody. So get a cheap camera. They're a couple $100 for a nice HD camera.
Well, listen, I've spoken with various teams, and the video thing seems to be like, it's not really a money issue. It's like teams have not found the right structure to get it done on a consistent basis.
Right.
And, and that is so hard that actually this next weekend, I've been contracted by Naples U19. They want, we're going to be going over there to tape their game. They're paying for that extra mileage, which is,
that could be the difference between a win in the quarterfinals or a loss, because they could well face Wellington in the quarterfinals again.
So, but I'm gonna get back to that because it's not that hard, but it is a little bit hard.
No,
So-
some teams it's about personnel and finding the equipment and getting a ladder, as we found out at Key Biscayne this past weekend, which we'll get to in a second. But let's get to some highlights, Charlie, before we get too much past 8:30.
Let me get in. I'm gonna get CV and Randall in. Okay.
Yeah, Chris Vassel.
Let's get them in because
Former current Boca coach, former Boca legend, life legend, UCF legend, in his own mind legend. And we're joined for the first time by Randall Johnson. Randall, we'll have Randall tell us a bit about himself in a minute, because he's a man of many hats. One of them being a referee, which we'll get to. We'll get to a game he had one of his rare red cards in recently. But let's get to our highlights first, and we can. If you want to jump in and comment on any of these guys, I've seen them already, so I'm going to comment a little bit.
Just
there's
before
some quality tries in these highlights, Charlie. I will say.
Yeah. We're gonna get right away. Just before we get into the highlights, I have something for Chris. Somebody wants to say hi.
Is it Valentina? Is it Valentina? We do need to get a camera on Valentina one of these days, Charlie, so she can say hi in person.
Oh no! You messed up there. There we go.
We got it.
I got some nostalgic stuff for you, Ross.
Yeah.
Oh, there she is. There's Valentina with her 401 KFL hat. What's the shirt, Charlie? I can't see the shirt. Her hair's covering the logo.
I actually think it's a soccer shirt this time.
That's all right.
She picks her own shirts. You know, she just picks them. We just.
Well, you got some work. You got some work to do with her. You got to buy her some more rugby jerseys, because as much as although I will say I've worn soccer jerseys on this show, so I'm just as responsible as others.
Good to see.
Look at that smile. What a smile. All right.
So the first thing I'm going to show is a pretty amazing try by Miami.
Oh, yes. Is this the only highlight you pulled from that game?
No. I have the rest, but I just.
This was a very good try.
It's something you just don't see that often.
This man, Will Moreno, is known for these kind of things. I was going to show it. Did you show it in full pace first, Johnny? He catches the kickoff and goes the distance. Trident's defense just sort of looking at each other saying, "Oh, I thought you were going to catch that. No, I thought you were going to catch it." But Will Moreno, a very good player. Unfortunately, he's stuck on that Miami squad that haven't won many games over the last few years. But that's excellent try by Will there. And he's a very nice guy, apparently, too.
Yeah.
Even with that scary beard. Here he is in full. Catches out on the ball. Tridents were just standing there watching. Look at that lovely playing surface at Athlete Range.
Yeah.
It's like a cow pasture.
Nice.
Nice try there by Will for the Bumblebees.
Good job, Will.
What we got first here, Charlie? Let's knock through these.
Okay, so we have we already did Okapi, right? So
Pancho's thinking somebody stop Charlie's BS with the slow-mo. He likes to make things dramatic. Pancho.
Oh my God, Pancho Lopez. So let's see. We got this is Ocala against Tallahassee.
Oh, some highlights from Ocala. I didn't even get to see these. I'll ignore the fact that both teams appear to be wearing gray jerseys.
Oh, what a nightmare for Bruce.
Yeah, this Bruce Swallow graciously made the trip over from the East Coast to Ocala. It was supposed to be a doubleheader, but the college game didn't end up happening because U23 game didn't end up happening because of COVID. Both teams in gray. Whose fault is that, Charlie? Whose fault is that? It's the home team's fault. The home team should always have their extra jerseys with them as they're not traveling. So that should be the case there.
Hey, that's Brewdog.
Oh, no, I got a.
Oh, there you go.
Clarification. Nice. Okay.
Valentino's wearing an All Blacks practice shirt. Charlie, how could you? Ronnie Suarez is going to be very upset at you. There's a 5-meter scrum here.
Hands out. Nice little pump.
Tallahassee.
Inside.
Again, I don't know which team is which because I can't. It looks like Ocala in the old
Tallahassee is the one attacking.
Okay.
Yes. Ocala defending with the gladiators on their shirts.
Mike Gomez sent the highlight.
Tallahassee have got some players, Charlie.
Yeah,
it could be a factor in this D-floor race. I think I heard they have former Key Biscayne player Angus Young.
Really?
Angus Kelly playing for Tallahassee. Which that might have been him scoring there, but it's too blurry. I can't really tell. No, that's not Angus there. But Angus Kelly, who was over in Cardiff playing for Cardiff Met, but has been back since the pandemic and is playing for Tallahassee. So Tallahassee could be one of those teams in the mix for the D4 title, I think, along with Okapi, Daytona, and Orlando. Semi-finals this year, Charlie, are going to be very, very good.
Yes, everything
In
looks
every division,
pretty-
I think. Some of the quarterfinals may be a little one-sided, but the semi-finals I'm really looking forward to on the 17th.
So let's
Yeah.
look at the highlights from that Miami game, which was won by Tridents.
It was won by the Tridents. The Tridents have owned this 305 derby for the last few years, and no difference in this one. This one was refereed by Pat O'Donnell, who graciously came over from the West Coast to help us out when we lost a referee. We didn't lose him. He just couldn't referee at late notice this week. We still know where he is. He's in quarantine, so we still know where he
Ross,
is.
I was going to ask, how'd you lose him?
Another grubber kick. That's the second grubber try we've seen today, Charlie.
That was a nice.
And a slightly late hit by number 7 from Miami. I would have yellow carded that man. Randall Johnson, what do you have to say about that late hit there? We're gonna go back and watch it.
No, we don't need to see it again. That's a nice little firm talking to afterwards.
That's a little knee into the back of the back.
Well, it's also a big boy at velocity. You know, you got to give him some. They just can't stop that quick. The brakes aren't there.
Maybe a warning would have sufficed. He should have stayed on his feet, though. He should have stayed on his feet instead of sticking his knee in the back of the Trident scorer.
Agreed.
And now we saw Miami's Trident scrum pushing Boca back recently, and they're doing the same thing again here to Miami. One of the easiest scores you'll see this season there for their scrum half.
Yeah, that's a very dominant
terrible
scrum.
mustache on that fly half, by the way. We're seeing some terrible mustaches in all over sports at the moment, especially in the college basketball. This was a nice little try here down the sideline. I think it ends up being. Not sure whether he should have released there, but either way, 15 coming in from the side and put himself out of position, and off goes the inside center. Little chip in.
Ooh.
The pole got in the way. I don't know what that pole is, Charlie, but we need to move
It's
it.
a competition.
Oh, the competition.
Did we see the flag go up?
I don't think we did. I think he stayed in bounds. Hey, don't doubt Pancho Lopez. He was right there.
Yep. Obviously, I don't know anyone here. So
that might have been a tackle in the air, but we didn't. No play. Oh no, there was an advantage there. Pat is given advantage. Trident's used it, and they did. They took the penalty in the end.
Yeah.
I don't know who this gentleman is. I'm not used to seeing this guy at 10 for Tridents. But Carlos Silva joining us. I'm going to say former referee because he hasn't refed in forever. He's a former everything. Former player, former coach, former referee. He doesn't do anything anymore. Except come on here and give us shit. Here's a quick line out inside the opponent's 5-meter line. Not something you see very often. Miami all over the place.
What's up, Carlos?
Iron Horse. What's going on?
By chance, that 8-man, is that 8-man a South African?
I don't know. There's that try again. Did you look South African, Randall?
No, that 8-man right there in the black.
He's a big lad. I'm not sure if he's South African, though. Maybe somebody from the Tridents will jump on and let us know.
Because I remember playing against Miami, and they had a very large South African when I played for Chattanooga.
What year was that?
When it was in Montgomery. A few years ago. Just a few years.
It could well have been Hein Erasmus.
Hein, yeah.
From the South.
Sounds
it
like
could well be Hein.
Big guy.
Yeah, probably him. He's been playing for the last 4 or 5 years. Unfortunately, had a accident skiing and is now helping coach. I think he's up in Atlanta now at the moment. They're helping with 404. But this looks like his clone. It certainly does. As the Tridents continue to rack up the tries here.
Yeah.
Against the poor Bumblebees, just gashing that defense. That's a nice little swerve to the outside. Don't see the old swerve too often these days. A nice finish in the corner by that number 12. Who had himself a day. And we'll see the Tridents will get a couple of weeks off.
Yeah,
they will play the winner. They could play Miami again. Oh no, excuse me. Yeah. They play the winner of Boca Tampa. I take that back. They play the winner of Boca Tampa.
Oh wow!
On the 10th. So you could see. Look at this man, Charlie. Who is this man? Look at this gas here from the second row. That may be Mr. Kalen Windsor, I think.
Oh, look at the wheels on that guy.
That is fantastic.
Good play.
Look at this.
He taunts the winger as he comes inside the 5-meter line. He's like, "What are you going to do, bud?" I think that was Kalen Windsor who joined us. Was it last week or the week before? I can't remember, Charlie. All the weeks of running together. There he is. What a handsome lad. He does look a little like he looks a little like Evan Haig at times, Charlie. I don't know if you noticed that in the face.
Maybe.
Get his number.
Unless he's under 18, Vassel, I'm not interested. And that's meant in a rugby way, not any other kind of way that you're.
Okay, I'm about to say.
Hey,
hey, speak of the devil, Kai Martinovich live from quarantine.
Is it National Referee Day or something?
No,
I just. Yeah,
how you
figured,
feeling?
You know what? I'm feeling better. Legs are still hurting, but luckily, chest hasn't been affected. No, not so much coughing. So it's just been a bit of a headache, really.
Everybody
out in your
stay
room
6
just like
feet
you would.
away from Kai.
You want me to get my mask on, Chris?
Yeah, put your mask on, Kai.
Well, Kai's staying in his room just like Kai. How old are you now?
10.
19.
Oh, you are still a teenager, then. So I can say, like most teenagers, he's quite happy to stay in his room. He's probably looking at car stuff and asking his
Car stuff. What
he's
year is
he's-
this, Ross? What is this?
He's
the
a car
60s?
guy. Have you seen his whip?
He's looking
It's a
at a
pretty
car
sweet-
magazine.
It's a pretty sweet ride. Charlie, do we have
Wow.
any more highlights? Oh, we do have
Uh,
highlights of my game, which are perhaps the worst highlights in history, because of thanks to a Cardinal Gibbons parent who decided to put a tent up right in front of the camera. We
Fantastic.
can. I will give your cameraman full credit, Charlie. We don't
Yes.
have to show my interviews afterwards if you don't want to, but
Oh, we have those interviews. Of
we don't
course,
have
I
them.
will.
We don't have time for those.
Oh,
Charlie.
yes.
They were
Yeah,
terrible.
we
Here's the
definitely
highlights
have
of my
time.
game.
We definitely.
Key Biscayne in blue. So Key Biscayne forgot their ladder. They forgot Charlie's ladder, I should say. So as the interception, first play of the game.
It's complicated.
Captain of Cardinal Gibbons, I think his name's Trey, right? He went down the other way, and then Gibbons got on the board first here. Trust me, it's going on behind that tent. This was the first play, basically the first play of the game. They drove down and scored in the corner. Somewhere back there. Yeah, Anthony did shoot through the tent on occasion, which was great. This is the first try for Gibbons, who came out. Listen, Gibbons are a very raw team. Lots of young talent, some big boys as always, and very simple game plan.
Was he on a folding chair?
He was on top of the bleachers, which were only 4 bleachers high, because Key Biscayne forgot Charlie's ladder. So that as a result, these highlights are not the best. There's Lucas Cavalieri with the conversion to give them the 7-5 early lead. And this is an interesting try here. Drop goal. Drop out, excuse me. Gibbons, no, I'm going to drop that. No, I'm going to drop it too. And that guy's also going to drop it. Key Biscayne pick it up. And then I'm going to say he touched it down because you can't see behind the guys that are standing there. It was a strange reaction, but I was right there, obviously. I was close enough. And then Lucas Cavalieri kicked it into Key Biscayne Bay. Everybody was asking, what happens to the ball? This is a big boy here for Gibbons. He's a big boy, that number 8. Not sure if he's got a future as a number 8, but if he keeps playing, he's got the size for a prop. So Gibbons keeping it close. This was a one-try game all the way down to the end. Key Biscayne, a lot of their guys were heading down to Argentina after this game because their spring break for the private schools runs this upcoming week, or this week that we're in now, I should say. Gibbons with a couple of costly misses on conversions. It would cost them in the end. It was a nice little driving ball and pick off the side of it, and in Key Biscayne went. That proved to be the winning try. They did add a penalty late on from Lucas Cavalieri, who's
Ross,
kicking right here. Yes, Charlie.
I am definitely going to put your interviews just because I want people to see what we're talking about, and we can have them from.
Oh yeah, listen. If you have a camera and want to do something silly like this, do it.
A close loss to Key Biscayne. Rocky, talk a little bit about that game. It's obviously a battle of attrition. It wasn't the prettiest game in the world. Your game plan was pretty clear. Just come in and ground the pound and try and wear these Key Biscayne boys down. But they really hung in there, and it was one-try game in the end.
Yeah, when you play a team as experienced as Key Biscayne, you know it's going to be a dogfight. But we were going to try to use our size a little bit to our advantage, which works sometimes, not all the time. We did a pretty good job. Our backs did a good job of getting the ball out, which we haven't done all season. Just didn't fall the way we wanted it to at the end.
Now you guys are used to playing on turf. This is obviously a new field for us, but it was hot out there.
Way too hot, man. Even for me on the sideline, I don't know how these guys were doing it.
What do you think the difference in the game was? I mean, you guys just
Ross, did you get that shirt when you graduated?
For both sides.
Yeah, when I was about 3 sizes smaller, yes.
Honestly, knowledge, man. They did a great job. They were real quick to the rucks. They took they must have
Rocky's lost weight, I think.
balls from us in regards to
Yeah, he did.
the poaching.
Well, he was
We gotta
playing at
clean that
Rugby
up.
Fest.
We gotta have more support running these pods.
Maybe he'd be playing for Fort Lauderdale if they had a team.
He was a lot fatter last year.
Conversions too.
Hey, Ross, how long did you wait to do this interview to catch your breath?
Yeah.
Listen, it was like 5 minutes. I didn't want Anthony to stick around. I will be getting a microphone.
This was at lunch the next day after school.
Okay.
Ross drove by with some pizza.
I do want to thank the Key Biscayne guys for amazing hospitality after this game. They took us
I'm
out
going to
for
mute
some
everybody if you
Argentinian,
don't shut up.
some Argentinian meat. Sorry, I'm interrupting, Rocky.
The wrestling season being done, we got some wrestlers coming in. Hopefully giving us some more depth. So we're excited. We just got to try to throw everything together though in the next 2 weeks.
That's the thing. This is anyone's game. This U19 championship. There's probably about 5 or 6 teams that could win. Thanks, Rocky.
Thank you, guys.
Good luck. We're here with Martin.
That was cool.
From Key Biscayne Rats. Winners today. Talk about that game, Martin. It was a big battle of attrition. You guys, I don't know how many tackles you guys made today, but that's a big, strong team, and you guys had to put in the work on the tackling side of things.
Yeah, they were really big. They came with a lot of force. They were like going forward a lot, and we just had to stick together. Tackle with 2 or 3 people, and just stay on our feet and really go forward.
How do you guys think you played as a team? I think first half. For the first 20-25 minutes was pretty good. Then everybody got a little tired, I think, and then the second half, lots of scrubs.
Yeah, in the second half, we were missing pretty big chances. The ball was falling, but at first, we started getting tired, but the motivation to keep them going and to win was always there, so we just stuck to it.
So bye week next week for you guys, and then I don't think you got 2 weeks off. I don't think you guys will play in that first round. So you have a couple of weeks off. What do you think this team needs?
The problem is with the planes there. The planes are always going over too.
So I was saying to Rocky, it's wide open. I think there's only sort of 5 or 6 teams looking at this.
Yeah, it's really tight. Right now, we probably need to work on just getting the ball out, like on the wing and outside. Sometimes we're just walking the ball a lot and just waiting to pass the ball. And just like you're saying, we just gotta keep up our physicality to not slow down in the second half and just keep on the intensity and the level.
Thanks, Martin. Appreciate it. Rest up. Enjoy your 2 weeks off.
Okay, thank you too, sir.
I promise I'll bring my microphone next time, Charlie. I just didn't know what to connect it to the camera with. But next time I'll bring a microphone and a nice long cord, and we'll be able to actually hear everybody. But it was a good fun game, and again, great hospitality from Key Biscayne. It's a pain in the ass to get to that. It took me like an hour and a half to get there and an hour and a half to get back, thanks to spring break traffic and the city locking everything down. But it was a great game. Mass Academy is their new field there because they can't get their field at the moment. It's turf, but it's a nice wide turf field, and everybody had a good time. It was a game played in good spirits.
So, Ross, just explain this idea of the correspondence. I know the audio was terrible and pretty useless, but we'll get that better.
Yeah, even if you have a phone, you can get a lot closer with a phone. You're just trying to get us in the picture. But if you have a phone and you're a referee, I know Pancho was supposed to do it this weekend and didn't. I'm going to slack him next time I see him on that bald head. But if you're at a game and you have your camera and you like to, especially if it's a team member that wants to do it, we'd love to have team members interviewing team members. That'd be great. Again, send us in any kind of video and we'll use it.
It's a good
Chris,
idea.
I want to see some interviews with you.
Oh man, look at that Pelican rugby shirt.
Okay,
That was probably the last time. That's probably from the last time they won a state championship.
Listen, this is the nostalgic jersey from 1996. I want to apologize to them because I took the number 14 by accident.
Yeah, right.
So I had it for all these years.
Well
I
done.
just want to come clean.
Well
Maybe we should have a segment of jerseys you give back to the teams that you stole from, and Chris can be the first one to do so. Because I know that everybody out there has that one jersey. You're like, oh man, I forgot to get that jersey back, and it's too late now.
Hey, you're getting a call,
I had the honor
Chris.
of playing with these guys one time, so it was fun.
One time and you got a jersey. What is it? A cap? I mean, honestly,
They probably regret. They are probably regretting it.
It was capulated in my bag.
No, you forget. Chris Vassel back in the day was the man in the state, man. Playing up at Iron Horse. Don't even exist anymore.
I know.
I remember playing against him when FAU versus UCF. He was the last person I wanted to see picking that ball off the back of the scrum and coming at me at 10. So you don't need to tell me.
Hey guys, thank you. It's not the Chris
Charlie,
Vassel
we got any
show.
more highlights, Charlie, before we get on to some
I'll do quickly these ones that are short. This is the SoFlo. This was a little friendly game that they played.
SoFlo only brought 12, so they decided to play 12-on-12 against the Tridents. There's a couple of nice tries in this game.
Yeah.
Tridents. I mean, this is Tridents B, or whatever was left of Tridents B. I did see one of the
Somebody
twins.
has a TV. Somebody has a TV on in the background.
I don't know who it is.
Sorry, guys.
Is that you, Chris?
It's
probably
sorry
Chris.
about that. It's my work meeting. Sorry.
Okay.
Chris is on an important work meeting.
I was about to say.
There's Pancho Lopez watching from the side. Is he lying down there, Charlie? Pancho's lying down on the sideline.
Yeah, chilling.
Was he taking a picture, maybe? No, our new referee, Rod Otero, there, who clearly needs to learn what color jerseys SoFlo wear. He wasn't expecting to ref this game, I will say, but he still showed up in a pink shirt. Pancho said the Trident's coach. There's a surprise. Dimitri wasn't there for anything, which he's never there for us either, but that's all right. There's another try from the SoFlo boys, who are apparently hosting the the Colorado XOs, the crossover team that's taken athletes from other sports and are turning them into rugby players. They played New Orleans a few weeks ago, New Orleans RFC, not Know the Gold, and beat them. And they're supposedly coming down this Saturday. I don't know where or when, which is typical, unfortunately, from this club. But Glendale and Colorado XOs are supposed to be down here this weekend. So once we get information on that, we can publicize it on Charlie's website, because that'll be a fun game to go to. Odell Beckham's his brother or his cousin plays for that team. There's one of the former Slowfo guys plays for that team as well.
Good charge down, yeah.
Yeah.
Former Life University player Lance.
There you go.
It's going to try.
Out of focus. I'm going to blame the cameraman for that.
No, that's a camera actually.
That was a kick he won't forget. This was a nice little try here. A little chip over the top. Nice friendly bounce. A little kick with the outside of the left foot.
Some soccer skills.
Yeah, a bit of soccer going on.
Just gets there before the Palm Beach guy. Spencer said the referee's jersey was pink on one side and blue on the other side, so he was shit out of luck.
Oh, got him.
This game.
That move.
Yeah,
Inside.
hopefully we'll have Ryan Forston on perhaps next week after their game against Colorado. SoFlo RFC really going to try and they're got a rugby league team joining the rugby league this upcoming summer, and that's really what they're really going to focus on is rugby league. They're just trying to get some of these guys games during the rugby union season, and that was good to see them there. Is that it, Charlie? I've got one more.
No, that is it. I think that's it. Hey, that
All
was
right.
a lot.
Well, as we got Randall and Carlos as first-time guests, Randall, give us a bit about your rugby history. Make it short and sweet, and what you do at the moment in regards to rugby.
All right. So let's go short and sweet. Started in upstate New York, Geneseo State University. One illustrious year. Then the school and I decided to part ways. After that, military. Wound up in Arizona. Walked on to Tempe Old Devils and wound up. That's where I learned rugby. That was actual rugby. That wasn't Red Rover send that bloke over. That was Salty Thompson, and we only lost 2 games the whole time we were there. Both of them to Ambach, who were the national champions back in the 90s. So went from there, went overseas and played American football in Germany for a while, and then came back and decided to walk away from football and went back to rugby. So played for the Rochester Colonials and then the Rochester Aardvarks. From there got suckered into refereeing a B-side match. That's how it
always
starts.
happens. Yes.
And that's the beauty of a B-side match. And went from there to move to Chattanooga and became full-time referee there. Played for Chattanooga for a while and then went to full-time refereing. And now I'm the chairman of the Mid-South Rugby Referee Society. Matter of fact, Kai over there, we met. He came to our level 2 course at the Nash Bash, him and his dad, I believe.
Nash Bash. Yes.
Yeah. That was,
my dad.
I think that was the last Nash Bash, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the last I've heard of.
Yeah, 2 years ago. We almost ran this year, but we didn't. But anyways, I'm still chairman because we in the Mid-South turn over. We do our elections every 2 years at the Nash Bash. Well, we didn't have the Nash Bash.
Right.
So we're going to have a quorum, and we want to do it in person. So when we have our next big event, at that point, I'll be stepping down and letting that go. I'm also the South referee representative to the RLC, which was the old rules and laws.
Yeah.
So I'm just basically the voice I get with the 4 referee societies of Deep South, Southeast, which is Georgia's and Carolinas and Florida. And basically everyone from Kentucky to New Orleans and southeast of there, that's the area that I represent.
Gotcha. Now you've been down here, for a couple of years now? So
not a couple. Actually, I've been coming down for the last 6 years.
Oh, that's right. On and off, yeah.
On and off. And so I've seen Key Biscayne. I saw them against Cape Pirates a few years ago, and I've seen them another time. And that team, I see them. They just play rugby. It's wonderful hands. So I've done games here and there. This year I started doing some of the Orlando matches because I live in New Smyrna Beach, so I kind of can range up and down the 95 corridor a little bit. And just had a privilege of doing a great match with that Orlando women's team, which were very impressive. I believe they were playing at Life this weekend.
They were. I didn't hear anything about how they did up there. But yeah, Orlando, they're probably the favorites to win. They've got obviously the UCF girls that aren't playing collegiate rugby playing for them as well, so they've got even stronger this year. Well, now you've been around Florida rugby for a little while. What are your impressions of Florida rugby compared to where you're from in Tennessee and where else you've played?
Well, I mean, first off, as we know, Florida is just a massive state. The distances are, in Tennessee, we were ranging from 5 hours between Memphis and Knoxville, but that's easily done here. I think it's 5 hours for me to get to Miami. I don't know.
It's just 4 hours.
So you've got wide ranges. The fact that you've got a D4, I think that's fantastic because that brings back that social rugby aspect.
Yeah.
And I think in the past few years, USA Rugby was focusing too much on the national championship. And so everything was driven towards it. You lost a lot of that social aspect. And teams were saying, you know what, we know we're not going to go and win the national championship. We just want to play local and have a good time. And I think that's very important aspect of rugby that was lost under that hard driving. You must have 10, 16 games, whatever it is, before May. So I think that's a great aspect. You've got a good U19 program. I've refed the Dragons. I think they were called the Dragons.
They were the Dragons, yeah. Now the Jaguares.
And the Jaguares. Yeah, there was a couple of teams that came up to the RCTs at Life when I was refing them.
The Juice previously before as well.
I just remember it was blazing hot. It's Atlanta. It's Life. It's that massive turf.
Yes.
And the teams ended with a tie, and we went to kicks, and everybody took 20 minutes before they took a kick, and I'm standing there, and they get to go run in the shade, and I'm just standing there with those black cleats on, boiling, and
How
I had to
many
go
rounds
work.
of kicks?
Two full rounds. Nobody could kick.
Listen, there was a game here in Florida. This was 2012, Miami against that Deltona team, and this was a semifinal. They tied the game, and they went to a round of kick, but they did drop kicks, not place kicks. I don't know in your case if it was drop kicks, and they started at the 22-meter line, and they went each time they both converted or they both missed. They were 5 meters back, 5 meters back. They did 12 rounds of kicks.
Oh wow!
And they ended up at the 40-meter or 45-meter line. That was really epic. That was Haley roughing that one.
Yeah, I don't want to do that one again because right after that I had to go work the Georgia USA rugby match. So I was one of the officials for USA in Georgia. I was the poor guy that sat there and tried to write everybody's names down of who's going in and out of the subs.
Those Georgia games. See, I did that for the Chile game.
And if you've ever seen the Georgian team up close and personal, they stayed at the same hotel as us as referees. I literally softballs on shoulders. That's
Some big boys.
Just
Yes.
massive. Unfortunately, we did not win that game. We came back and then ran out of time at USA team. But other than that, no, I'm loving Florida. And I'm hoping to see a lot of the teams. It's been cool to meet a bunch of different folks. And, the thing about Florida is ain't nobody from here. Everybody's from somewhere else.
This is very true. Well, the wife tells me Life beat Orlando 52-17 for those that care. But while we've got 2 refs here, and 2 coaches, and 1 half ref. Charlie and I we'll talk about this before we go because we're getting close to 2 hours. But law knowledge and discipline. Randall, you've had an incident recently involving red cards, which you said have been rare in your career. And we can talk to Kai as well as Carlos and CV about this. But Randall, talk a little bit about discipline at that U19 level and what's really playing into the lack of it with certain teams.
All right. Well, it was my second and it was my third red card that I'd ever issued. And the first red card was between South Carolina and Clemson. And I was a Yankee that moved down to the South and had no idea that Clemson and South Carolina hate each other. I didn't even know where Clemson was. Didn't know what state. So that was my first red card. These were a couple of red cards, and I don't know. I don't know if it's only endemic to Florida, because I'm actually working through another red card in our first week in Tennessee for referee abuse, basically. And it's just seems, it was a gentleman decided that a call was effing BS.
Right.
And let everybody know very gutturally across the whole pitch. And that was his second yellow card. So 2 yellows equals a red. And, it's an emotional game. I get it. I just wonder if some of it has to do, it was the same thing with the Cape game. There was a lot of heated emotions, Cape and Sarasota.
Mm-hmm.
And it just really seemed like, honestly, I hate to say it, but I mean, I played professional football overseas, and I understand the mentality. And it's that mentality is still there at the U19 because, well, you're under 19 and you've played football and you're taking football philosophy and you're trying to apply it on a rugby field. And sometimes it just doesn't work. Matter of fact, unless you come with that culture of, that extra inch doesn't mean anything in rugby, actually recycle the ball faster and get up and go again. That's how you win the game. You get a lot of that football mentality that's bleeding over. I'm glad they're there. I'm glad the athletes are there because we all know that 99% of the people never get to play football after they leave high school.
Yeah.
So it's a tough thing for the coaches to try to keep them fired up, keep them going, but keep their head on a level, on a level set.
Let's talk to the 2 coaches we have here. Carlos, as a former coach at Jupiter, as well as I think you coached at RBMA as well, right?
Yeah.
Talk about what you guys really did well because I didn't really have any trouble with your teams. Is you as a coaching staff, what you really had to do to these kids that
we basically told them
backgrounds.
We told them if they talk back to the ref, we'd kill them. I mean, that's basically what you have to tell them. It's that simple. And trust me, listen, the guys from Riviera were the toughest guys. They came. Yeah. A couple of those guys used to have to run through neighborhoods to come to the pitch, like literally, like telling me, "Come pick us up," because we're afraid of some guys. You know what I mean? And you remember the Celepex used to go pick these guys up.
Yeah.
So these kids, when I first went out there, I'm thinking, whatever. But I grew up in New York in the hood, and these guys were just regimented. And all I would say is, if you talk back, you're coming out of the game. That's all. And same thing with Celepec. We used to take kids right off the pitch. Come here. They would get up and go, F you, ref, off the pitch. Don't worry, ref. You don't have to do anything. Don't have to do it. And you're not playing next game either. But I saw you, ref, one time, Ross, and you took a kid out of the game. I forget. Or you put him off for 10 minutes. When he was on the sideline, I listened to the audio because I was watching it through one of the parents' films. And they're like, right. Oh, Jimmy. That wasn't his name. Don't worry about it. Here's a hamburger. That was a terrible call. That's what's wrong with the game right there. There it is. So Jimmy goes back in the game 10 minutes later. He's going to play more like an a-hole. You know what I mean? And he's going to go all over the field. So the parents, the coaches on those teams, which a lot of teams have done a lot better, they're just not regimenting it. If the coach yells at Randall, everyone's going to yell at Randall.
Yeah, that's a good
guy
point. The
guy mowing the lawn is going to get off his thing. Same thing with Kai. I watched one game with Kai last year, right? And this was a men's game. And the men's coach was just, it's over there. I mean, it was just like, shut up. Your team was terrible, okay? They're just terrible. Then, remember this Kai, the 8-man, when we were going through, said, you should go back to playing rugby on PlayStation. Remember that guy?
You're gonna have to repeat that. Yeah, you broke up a little bit on my end.
He said you should go learn how to play rugby on PlayStation. Remember that comment?
Oh yeah, that was.
I mean, Kai, as a relatively new ref, Kai, how have you learned how to deal with stuff from the sidelines?
For me, for the sidelines at least, regarding coaches, it's just I don't know. You have to just use the. It's okay. Captain, coach, spectator is becoming a bit of a problem. You deal with it, or they're just going to have to leave for the day. Where I've probably made the most progress, learning as a young referee, has been more so on the field. It's getting the confidence to know, okay, well, the call I make is essentially the right call. because I'm the sole judge of law and fact on the day. So it goes, whether it's right or wrong.
Right.
And if you present yourself in a way that, okay, well, you show that you're confident in the board, listening to you, respecting you, and don't invite argument. Invite discourse, but don't like encourage or listen to any arguments. And I think that's probably been one of the biggest helps for me so far, is because you present yourself in this way, you have the confidence on the field, and it portrays to the players, and now you get quite a bit of respect back from coaches then too.
Yeah, 100%. Now, Chris, as the wife mentioned, her thoughts on kids and high school parents, having to be educated, before they come and watch a game about, how to deal with referees and how to deal with perhaps their pent up frustrations. Chris, how does Boca as a club, deal with? I know you've had some issues here and there with parents, especially that have caused trouble on the sidelines. How do you deal with your troubled parents and troubled players?
Well, from the beginning, at the beginning of the season, we have a code of conduct. Each parent, each player has to go through it. Nobody go over it. Garth does a great job by setting a meeting before we even get out on the field, and just uniformly with all the parents and kids right there, and say this is a culture. Even with the new players, like we mentioned the crossover with new parents coming in. And new football players crossing over. The one thing that we found that works for us to build that culture is just keep them freaking busy constantly. Just keep them movement, rest, keep movement, so that now they can catch up and see that the work rate is very high. But we just said it from the beginning, the get-go, no nonsense. And we're all about development and the growth of the sport. So let's keep that culture and build it so we can look good, for all the other sports that's looking in and say, oh, I want my kids to be involved with that club. So it's part of the professionalism that we're trying to build. So, I mean, it's just trying to build that standard, and it helps.
Yeah, let's go back to go ahead, John.
Remember that game that we were both, you were the referee, Miami game, like back in 2010 or 11.
Lincoln Park Academy.
Like at that time, we learned the hard way that what was Chris saying right now, that you really have to do it and be very clear with the parents, because we had not done that, and we were in this like semifinal game, and it was a little bit heated, the game from the beginning, mostly because the ref didn't set the tone, and so there was a little scrimmage right on the sideline. And
a skirmish, yes.
Yeah, well, and a little punch was thrown. So the mom of one of our players decided it was time for her to take, matter in her own hands.
She jumped in the Royal Rumble.
She jumped in, and then a huge brawl. Everybody, parents, grandparents. I don't know. It was. Remember, I mean, you were there.
I was.
I believe Andrea was there also.
That was Andrea's first ever rugby game as well. Yeah, I just canceled the game. All right, before we get out of here, because we've got 2 minutes tonight, Randall, let's go back to you real quick. As somebody that's refereed in different places, and how have you dealt with sidelines? And do you deal with it in Tennessee any differently, or in anywhere else than we do, really?
Actually, we've really worked with the local society. Well, the society's worked with the local conferences to enforce the technical zones. There have been times that I literally had to separate coaches. The players just stood there staring at the coaches while they were chirping at each other at the 50, and then I had to move them back to the 40s, and they kept chirping at each other. The players are all just doing this, going, we have no idea what's happening out here. And one of them was a pastor, so that made it even more fun. Afterwards, everything was okay, but it was. The technical zones make a big difference, and I've seen a pretty good job of that here in Florida.
Trying.
No, it works. It works. It gives that space and the diffusion. Unfortunately, my game, that didn't matter. The teams both showed up with like 12 people, so they didn't. Whatever. It wasn't.
Yeah, you had an incident which no referee wants to ever go through, which is a player grabbing you.
Yeah.
No player should ever be making contact with a referee.
Yeah, it was. At that point, it was obviously there was no use continuing. We did continue on for another 7 minutes, and after that, it was kind of pointless. But that's the first time I've had to do one of those, unfortunately. And as Kai said, a lot of it is you keep that confidence. You can control the sidelines, even if you are completely wrong and you blew it. half the time the coaches don't figure it out either. Okay. You
Yeah,
call it 22 dropout when somebody knocks on into goal. That happens every time, and you just go tweet 22, and everyone goes, okay, off they go.
I mean, I think the coaches and the parents as well are getting more educated as we go, which can also only help. You know, the more you learn about the game, the less you're going to yell because you understand what's going on. A lot of these parents are just yelling because they don't understand what's a penalty and what isn't.
And the best thing about that is the clubs that are solid clubs that keep somebody through instead of just a parent coming in and coaching and leaving, but you've got that continuity. Yeah. Those clubs you can see it. One, they're better coached. They play the game. Their parents understand it because they've had 4 years of somebody else teaching them. You know, those are the signs of the clubs that do really well.
100%. All right. Well, we're past 9 o'clock. Before I go, Carlos, can we get an update on Jupiter Sharks? Are we going to see them back next year or what?
Maybe. Me and Dwight got tired of doing everything. And I've been coaching high school rugby for 10 years, and I was just watching it. The rugby level play has been good, but the coaching and the sidelines have been going like this. That's the problem with rugby.
Yeah.
You know, and it's the culture. It's not rugby. It's American football is bleeding into it. Okay. And American football 100%. And rugby need to be totally separate. That's the way it is. It's sorry.
Yeah,
I'm an old school guy.
Charlie and I talked about this last week. You know, you have rugby guys here, which you guys are, and then you have guys that play rugby or guys that just happen to coach rugby that aren't rugby guys and just don't get it. And a lot of the clubs that are doing well are run by rugby guys, and the guys the coach clubs that aren't doing so well are run by guys that just played a bit of rugby and have the time to help out.
Right.
Let me quickly say this: the most misleading character, to explain rugby, the most misleading explanation is it's like football without pads.
Right.
That's like
100%.
the worst explanation of rugby. You know what? Have rugby and football have in common that rugby is the father. That's it. That's it. There's nothing else in common, to be honest. Nothing.
No, you're right.
Talk about that some other day because it's past Ross bedtime, and I don't want to.
You probably even haven't had dinner yet in Miami. Is there a lockdown in your area? Is curfew?
And you know what?
Andrea's in the kitchen.
I already have my dinner. That's his jab at the wife every time. Well, gentlemen, as always, it's been a pleasure, and we'd love to have you on whenever you guys want to come on. Kai, Carlos, thanks for joining us as surprise guests.
Ross, one last thing.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes.
You get Palm Beach Rugby Football Club, my friend. Eat it.
Listen, as I said, I played a full season for Palm Beach. That's where I got my final concussion. Andrew's ready to kill you. Kill Charlie, that is. I'll always have a soft spot for Palm Beach.
Everybody has a last word, and we will leave. Okay.
Yeah, go ahead. Top left. Get Chris. Go on. Boca playing this weekend.
Yeah, we play this weekend. We're playing
Sarasota. That's right. A long trip.
Sarasota. So we look forward to that, and we just look forward to having a good time and good results, and a good day of rugby. But everyone have a good day of rugby. I'm looking forward to, like Ross says, the playoffs and the semis here in the state of Florida. It looks to be pretty exciting, and it's anybody's game. So
yeah, a win for Boca on Saturday.
Hey, where's Jordan?
He's asleep.
Hey, Jordan!
Oh, it's not. It is spring break here in Broward County.
Yeah,
he must be cutting his hair, baby. That's why he's taking so long.
Yeah, a win on Saturday would guarantee you guys a home quarterfinal. So that would be a big one.
We're going to do our best and have a good time that day, and look for a good result either way.
Cheers, CV. Let's move on to our other scheduled guest, Randall. Again, thanks for all you've done this year helping out with the ref. Hope the knee's feeling all right, and certainly going to get you some playoff action here down in the last month.
Well, that was what I was hoping. I look forward to meeting more teams and more people because you can't make the rugby world, you just got to make as many people as you possibly can. So I'm looking forward to meeting all of you. And yes, I am one of those referees that will always go with you to the social. I think that's very important.
That is very important, ref.
He's right.
He's a good man, is Randall. Thanks, Rand. Kai, well, hopefully you continue your recovery. Oh, let's go to Kai. Hopefully you can continue your recovery from the COVID. Stay quarantined and test negative soon. I hope because Chris has got his mask on. Hopefully we'll see you back for. I know you're going to be trying to get tropical sevens on the 3rd. Hopefully, if you're feeling better. And then we'll see you hopefully for the 15th playoffs on the 10th after
Palm Beach County
run your legs off.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah, so I mean, I've been cleared by the county. On Saturday? I'm clear to come out of isolation, and then if I don't have a fever for 24 hours, I'm free to do regular activities. So I'll be good to go for Drop 7s. Just probably a bit more out of shape than I would have liked to be.
Get better, man.
Yeah, get better.
Feel better, Kai. And then Carlos, thanks for making your debut this year. There's Jordan Vassel with the hair. Can you give Dad some of that hair? What's the show? Oh, Jordan's repping the 404 today.
404.
Rugby ATL's developmental side. Rugby ATL with a big win in their first game over the weekend against Toronto Arrows, who are also based out of Atlanta this year because they can't travel back and forth from Toronto. But that was a nice win for Scott Lawrence and the boys. So repping ATL, good to see. Carlos, thank you for joining us dropping in as a special guest this evening. Hope to see you out on the pitch soon doing something. Repping, coaching, hopefully not playing.
Yeah, I don't know why you always do it. You always want to hurt my feelings, man. You always want to hurt. That's all right, though. That's all right.
It's all with love
on the board.
It's all with
love.
Yeah, Carlos is celebrating Palm Beach Rugby, and as we all are, they're playing very well. Right, one of the best teams in the state. I'm looking forward to that championship game against.
Hey,
Brevard.
one quick thing. Why is there a Division 2 and a Division 3? Could you please explain that to me?
They talked about bringing them all together. I don't know if it was last season, but you're coming from a team that should have moved up. Well, Gainesville should have moved up when they won. I don't know if there's still rules about winning D3 and having to go up to D2, but I think perhaps a combined D2 and
It
then
should
a
just
D4.
be one division. Just north and south.
Leave the D4 social stuff, for their own. But I think
that's fine. But yeah, I understand a social division.
They've talked about it, so we'll see if that happens at the AGM this year. Well, gentlemen, it's past 9 o'clock. Appreciate you. Appreciate everybody joining us this evening. You can obviously catch up if you missed us on YouTube or on Facebook, and also we're available on all major podcast platforms. Just search for Rugby or TFRO or Rugby Florida. You'll find us on Spotify, Apple, iTunes, all that stuff. So. Thanks for hanging in with us, everybody. We'll see you next Wednesday. I think we'll have a sort of a review, perhaps, of the last games of the regular season, as well as Tropical Sevens, which is starting on Friday, this coming Friday. So smaller Tropical Sevens, only playing with 4 pitches. But I know a lot of our refs, including Randall, is heading over there as a coach. I think, right, Randall, this week?
Yes.
Next Friday, Ross.
It's next Friday, not this one.
Sorry, next. So maybe we'll have John Siner on to talk about Tropical Sevens next week. Yes, next Friday. Well, maybe we'll have John Siner on.
Settle down there, Andrea.
Yeah, Vassel says settle down, woman.
I did not say that.
So yeah, maybe we'll talk to John Siner before Tropical Sevens next week and see what they've got going on. I know it's a smaller event, but it's still very important, especially with referee development. And I know Kai's going to go up there and ref, and Randall's going to go up there and coach.
Okay, stop talking, Ross. If not,
Thanks, guys. We'll see you all next week.
Thank you very much.
Great show. Thank you. Keep spreading the word.
Thank you, Ross. Thank you, Charlie.
Cheers, boys.
Bye.
Florida Rugby.
Cheers.